I was invisible even before I disappeared. 72 years on this earth, and somewhere along the way I became a ghost in my own family. A wallet with a heartbeat, an ATM with arthritis. That's what I'd become to my son Richard. The invitation came on a Tuesday. A rare phone call from Richard himself, not his assistant or his wife Vanessa. His voice carried that familiar strain, the one I'd learned meant he needed something. "Mom, great news," he said, the words rushing out like water through a broken dam. "Lily's graduating next month, valedictorian, full scholarship to Princeton." My chest swelled with pride. Lily, my brilliant granddaughter. I'd sent her books every birthday since she was 3, classics, poetry, science. Never knew if she read them. Never got thank you notes, but I sent them anyway. "That's wonderful," I said, my voice warm with genuine joy. "I'm so proud of her." "Yeah, it's a big deal," Richard continued. "Listen, Mom, we were thinking, would you want to come out for the ceremony? Lily mentioned you specifically." Lily mentioned me? My heart skipped. When was the last time I'd seen her? 4 years? 5? Christmas cards and occasional FaceTime calls orchestrated by Richard's guilty conscience were our only connection. "I'd love to," I said, perhaps too quickly. "Great, the ceremony's on the 15th. You can stay with us, of course." Us, Richard and Vanessa's sprawling colonial in Connecticut, 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and somehow never enough room for me at holidays. "That's very kind," I said. "I'll book my flight." "Actually," Richard cleared his throat, "we were hoping you might be able to get here a few days early. Lily would love to spend some time with you before the ceremony." Would she? I wondered. Or did Richard need something else? "Of course," I said. "I'll make arrangements." "Perfect." "Oh, and Mom?" His voice shifted, softened artificially. "We've been looking at houses. Something bigger. Vanessa's business is really taking off, and we could use more space." There it was. The real reason for the call. "That sounds exciting," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Yeah, just something to chat about when you're here. Nothing urgent." Nothing urgent, yet somehow important enough to mention now. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table, the same oak table where I'd fed Richard for 18 years, and stared out the window at my modest garden. The rose bushes needed pruning. Everything needed tending eventually. I hadn't seen my son's family in person since Richard's 40th birthday 2 years ago. Vanessa had arranged a surprise party, invited 60 people, and seated me between a colleague's mother and the caterer's assistant. I'd written a check for $5,000, most of my savings, as a gift. Richard had hugged me quickly, said thanks, Mom, and moved on to more important guests. Now I was invited back for Lily's graduation, and apparently a conversation about real estate. I opened my laptop and searched for flights to Connecticut. The prices made me wince. My teacher's pension only stretched so far. I'd have to dip into my emergency fund, but for Lily, I would do it. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time I'd matter. What I didn't know then was how right I was. This time would be different, but not in the way I hoped. This time would change everything. I booked my flight for the 10th of May, 5 days before the graduation. Then I made a list of what I'd need: a new dress for the ceremony, a gift for Lily, medications, comfortable shoes, the basics. That night, I dreamed of my late husband, Frank. He stood in our old kitchen, wearing his favorite flannel shirt, shaking his head. "Martha," he said, his voice thick with concern, When will you learn? I woke up at 3 a.m. with tears on my pillow and couldn't fall back asleep. What Frank would have said about all this, I couldn't bear to imagine. He never minced words, especially about Richard. That boy thinks the world owes him something, he'd say. But Frank had been gone for 12 years now, and Richard had only grown more entitled with time. "He called you himself?" she asked, skepticism dripping from every word. "Not Vanessa?" Eleanor went quiet for a moment. "And he brought up houses, new houses they're looking at?" "Yes," I admitted. "But that doesn't mean—" "Martha," Eleanor interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. "You know what this is." I did know, but I didn't want to admit it. "It's Lily's graduation," I insisted. "I should be there." "Of course you should," Eleanor agreed. "But go with your eyes open, that's all I'm saying." After we hung up, I walked to my bedroom and opened my jewelry box. Inside was the strand of pearls Frank had given me on our 25th anniversary. I hadn't worn them in years. Next to them lay my mother's diamond earrings, small but flawless, like her. These were the last valuable things I owned. Everything else had gone to helping Richard, his college tuition, his first apartment's security deposit, the down payment on his first house with Vanessa, the loans when his first business failed, always with promises to pay me back, always with eventual excuses. I picked up the pearls, feeling their cool weight in my palm. What would Lily like for her graduation? Something meaningful. Something that said, "I see you. I value you. I believe in you." I decided to take the pearls to Jensen's Jewelry on Main Street. Mr. Jensen had been there forever, his hands growing more gnarled but his eye for quality never dimming. "Mrs. Wallace," he greeted me warmly, "what brings you in today?" I placed the pearl necklace on the counter. "I'd like to know what these are worth." He examined them carefully through his jeweler's loupe, then looked up at me with a sad smile. "Your anniversary pearls? Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I said firmly. "My granddaughter is graduating as valedictorian. I want to get her something special." Mr. Jensen nodded slowly. "I understand. These are worth about $3,000. I can give you $2,800. It was fair, I accepted. With the money, I purchased a delicate white gold necklace with a pendant, a small open book with Lily's birthstone set in the center. Mr. Jensen engraved the back. "Your story is just beginning. Love, Grandma." On the way home, I stopped at Nordstrom's, something I rarely did anymore. I needed a dress for the graduation, something dignified but not matronly, something that said I wasn't just Richard's mother or Lily's grandmother, but Martha Wallace, a woman with her own presence. I found it on the clearance rack, midnight blue with three-quarter sleeves and a subtle shimmer to the fabric. The saleswoman assured me it looked absolutely stunning, though I suspected she said that to everyone. Still, when I turned in front of the mirror, I caught a glimpse of the woman I used to be, shoulders back, chin high, eyes bright with intelligence and purpose. I paid for the dress, wincing slightly at the price tag even with the discount. Between the flight, the necklace, and now this, I'd spent nearly all of my emergency fund, but I told myself it was worth it. This was Lily's moment, but it was also a chance to reconnect with my family, to matter again. That night, I laid out everything I would pack, checking items off my list methodically: pills, comfortable shoes, the new dress, casual clothes for the days before the ceremony, my one good cardigan for cool evenings, the small photo album I'd compiled of Lily's childhood visits, the necklace I wrapped carefully in tissue paper and tucked into a small velvet box. I didn't know then how right I was. This time would be different. Not because they had changed, but because I would. The morning of my flight dawned bright and clear. I woke early, double-checked my suitcase, called a taxi to take me to the airport. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, promised to water my plants and collect my mail. "Have wonderful time with family," she said, her English still accented after 30 years in America. Family most important. I smiled and thanked her, not mentioning that I wasn't entirely sure my family felt the same way. The airport was crowded, full of people rushing toward connections or reunions. I watched young mothers with children, businessmen with briefcases, college students with backpacks. Everyone had somewhere to go, someone waiting. I clutched my boarding pass and joined the slow-moving security line, slipping off my shoes and placing my small carry-on on the conveyor belt. On the plane, I sat next to a young woman who tapped relentlessly on her phone until the flight attendant entreated her to put it in airplane mode. She sighed dramatically as if this minor inconvenience was unbearable, then put in earbuds and closed her eyes. I stared out the window as we took off, watching my little city shrink beneath us. 3 hours to Connecticut? 3 hours to prepare myself for whatever awaited me. The flight was smooth except for a patch of turbulence that made my stomach lurch. The young woman beside me slept through it all. I envied her peaceful oblivion. When we touched down, I turned on my phone and texted Richard. Landed safely at baggage claim shortly. No immediate response, which wasn't surprising. Richard was always busy, too busy for prompt replies to his mother. I collected my suitcase and wheeled it to the arrivals area, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. None appeared. I checked my phone again. No response from Richard. I waited 15 minutes, then called him. The call went to voicemail. I left a message. "Hi, Richard. I've arrived and am at the pickup area. Let me know when you're here." Another 15 minutes passed. I called again, voicemail again. A cold feeling began to spread through my chest. I texted one more time, "Should I take a taxi?" Almost immediately, a response appeared. "So sorry, Mom. Completely slipped my mind. Yes, grab a taxi. Address is 47 Oakwood Drive, New Haven. See you soon." Slipped his mind. My visit, the visit he had specifically requested, had slipped his mind. I swallowed hard and headed outside to the taxi stand. The driver, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, loaded my suitcase into the trunk. "Where to, ma'am?" 47 Oakwood Drive, New Haven, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Visiting family?" he asked as we pulled away from the curb. "Yes," I replied. "My son and his family. Nice area, Oakwood. Big houses." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak further. The familiar ache of disappointment pressed against my ribs. I'd made this journey, spent money I could ill afford, packed my best clothes, prepared myself emotionally, and Richard had forgotten I was coming. I was an afterthought in my own son's mind. As we drove, I gazed out the window at the passing landscape. Connecticut was beautiful in May, trees fully leafed out, gardens blooming, everything fresh and alive, so different from the barren feeling inside me. The taxi turned into an exclusive neighborhood with sprawling homes set back from the street. Perfectly manicured lawns, luxury cars in circular driveways, an air of privileged serenity. "Here we are," the driver announced, pulling up to a large colonial with black shutters and a red door. "Need help with the bag?" Yes, please, I said, reaching for my wallet. The fare was exorbitant, but I tipped generously anyway. The driver had been kind, had treated me like a person. That deserved recognition. With my suitcase beside me, I stood on the sidewalk and stared at Richard's house. It was even larger than I had imagined. 3 stories, professionally landscaped grounds, a 3-car garage visible to the side. All this, and they were looking for something bigger? I wheeled my suitcase up the brick walkway and rang the doorbell. Chimes echoed inside. No answer. I rang again. Finally, the door swung open. Vanessa stood there, impeccably dressed as always in white linen pants and a silk blouse, her blonde hair swept into a casual updo that probably cost more than my entire outfit. "Martha," she exclaimed, her surprise poorly concealed. "You're here already?" Already? I'd arrived exactly when I said I would on the day Richard had suggested. "The flight was on time," I said, attempting a smile. "It's good to see you, Vanessa. Come in, she said, stepping back. "Richard didn't mention you were arriving today. He's at the club. Golf tournament." Of course he was. I stepped into the foyer, its soaring ceiling and marble floor designed to impress. Family photos lined the walls, Richard, Vanessa, and Lily in various picturesque settings. Beaches, ski slopes, European capitals, none included me. A pull-out sofa in a 5-bedroom house. "That's fine," I said, because what else could I say? Vanessa led me upstairs and down a hallway to a small room lined with bookshelves. A desk had been pushed against one wall to make room for the sofa, which hadn't yet been pulled out into a bed. And with that, she was gone, her footsteps echoing down the hardwood hallway, leaving me alone in a room that clearly hadn't been prepared for my arrival. I sank onto the sofa, still in my travel clothes, and felt the full weight of reality settle onto my shoulders. They had forgotten I was coming, or perhaps they hadn't forgotten, perhaps they simply didn't care enough to prepare. I sat there for several minutes trying to collect myself. This wasn't the time to fall apart. I needed to be strong, dignified. I needed to remember why I had come, for Lily to celebrate her achievement. Eventually, I rose and began to unpack, hanging my new dress in the small closet and arranging my toiletries in a neat row on the desk, since there was no dresser. The velvet box containing Lily's necklace I tucked safely into my purse. When I finished, I made my way downstairs to the kitchen, a showcase of stainless steel appliances and marble carnauba that looked barely used. I found bread and cheese in the refrigerator and made myself a simple sandwich, eating it standing at the counter rather than sitting alone at the massive dining table visible through an archway. As I ate, I noticed a calendar hanging on the wall. May 15th, Lily's Graduation, was circled in red. May 10th, today, had no notation of Mom arrives. The 12th, however, had a note, Realtor, Westbrook Property 2 p.m. So they were seriously house hunting for something larger than this already enormous home. And they had held a viewing during my visit without mentioning it to me. The front door opened, and I heard voices, Lily and a friend. From the sound of it, I quickly rinsed my plate and stepped into the hallway. "Lily?" I called. She appeared in the doorway, tall and willowy with Richard's dark hair and my mother's high cheekbones. For a moment she looked confused. Then recognition dawned. "Grandma, what are you doing here?" My heart sank further. She hadn't known I was coming either. "I'm here for your graduation," I said, managing a smile. "Your father invited me." Oh, she said, glancing back at her friend, a girl with bright red hair who hovered uncertainly in the background. That's cool. This is Madison. Madison waved awkwardly. Huh. We were just grabbing some books, Lily continued. We have to study for finals. Of course, I said. Don't let me keep you. I'm so proud of you being valedictorian. Lily shrugged, looking uncomfortable. Thanks. It's not a big deal, but it was a big deal. It was a tremendous achievement. I wanted to tell her that, to really talk to her, but she was already edging toward the stairs, clearly eager to escape. We'll catch up later, I offered. Sure, she said, not meeting my eyes. Later. And then she was gone, thundering up the stairs with Madison, leaving me alone again in the vast, empty kitchen. I leaned against the counter, breathing deeply to steady myself. This wasn't what I had expected, not what I had hoped for, but I was here now, and I would make the best of it, for Lily's sake if not for my own. What I didn't know then was that this crushing disappointment was just the beginning. What awaited me in the coming days would force me to confront truths I'd been avoiding for years, about my son, about my place in this family, and most importantly, about myself, truths that would ultimately set me free, though not without pain. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop allowing others to treat you as if you don't matter. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is to finally see the truth, even when it breaks your heart. The rest of that first day passed in a haze of uncomfortable solitude. I stayed in my makeshift bedroom most of the afternoon, reading a novel I'd brought along. Around 6, I heard the front door open and close, followed by Richard's voice calling for Vanessa. I straightened my clothes and went downstairs. "Mom," Richard exclaimed when he saw me, as if my presence was a complete surprise. "You made it." "I did," I said, accepting his brief, perfunctory hug. "This morning, as planned." Right, he said, checking his watch. "Sorry about the pickup. Tournament ran long, and then there was the luncheon." No real apology, no acknowledgement that he had completely forgotten about me. "It's fine," I lied. "I took a taxi." Good. He glanced around. "Where's Vanessa?" "I'm not sure. She mentioned a charity meeting." "Ah, right. Thursday is her junior league day." He loosened his tie. "Have you seen Lily?" "Briefly. She's studying with a friend." Richard nodded, then his expression brightened artificially. "Hey, are you hungry? We could order something." It was the first genuinely hospitable suggestion anyone had made since my arrival. "That would be nice," I said. "Great. Chinese, okay. There's a decent place that delivers." "Chinese is fine." Richard pulled out his phone and placed an order without consulting me on what I might want. When he finished, he grabbed a beer from the refrigerator. "Want one?" he offered, almost as an afterthought. "No, thank you. Water is fine." He shrugged and took a long swig from the bottle. "So, how's everything back home? Still doing that garden club thing?" "Book club," I corrected. "Yes, we meet monthly." Cool. He wasn't really listening. His eyes kept darting to his phone. "I understand you're looking at houses," I said, deciding to address the elephant in the room. Richard's attention snapped back to me. "Oh yeah, Vanessa's interior design business is really taking off, and she needs more space for client meetings. Plus, Lily will be home during college breaks, and this place feels cramped sometimes." Cramped. A 5,000 square foot home felt cramped. "I see," I said neutrally. Actually, Richard continued, his tone shifting to that too casual cadence I recognized from childhood when he wanted something, we found this amazing property in Westbrook. Historical, tons of character, but it needs some updating. The market's competitive right now, so we'd need to move quickly. I waited, knowing what was coming. The thing is, he went on, with Lily's college expenses coming up, even with the scholarship, our cash flow is a little tight right now. There it was. How much, Richard? I asked quietly. He blinked, momentarily thrown by my directness. Well, we'd need about $50,000 for the down payment. I'd pay you back, of course. Once Vanessa's business expands, or we could work out a loan arrangement. $50,000, more than I had in my entire savings account, more than I would have after a lifetime of teaching high school English. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang, the Chinese food arriving with impeccable timing. Richard seemed relieved by the interruption, hurrying to the door. Lily never came down. According to Vanessa, she was still studying with Madison, and had texted that she'd grab something later. After dinner, I excused myself, claiming fatigue from travel. Neither Richard nor Vanessa objected. I returned the small office, pulled out the sofa bed myself, discovering sheets folded at the foot, but no blanket, and lay down fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. I thought about the $50,000 Richard wanted, about the $3,000 I'd gotten for my anniversary pearls, about the emergency fund I'd nearly depleted just to be here, in this house where I was clearly an afterthought. I thought about Eleanor's warning and Frank's voice in my dream, "When will you learn, Martha?" Sleep came fitfully, broken by uncomfortable springs in the thin mattress and the strange sounds of an unfamiliar house. I dreamed of my classroom at Lincoln High, of eager young faces looking to me for guidance, for wisdom. I had been somebody there. I had mattered. Morning brought no comfort. I woke early, as was my habit, and made my way quietly downstairs. The kitchen was empty. I found coffee and managed to figure out the complicated European machine that brewed it. Cup in hand, I wandered to the back of the house where French doors opened onto a stone patio and meticulously landscaped backyard. It was peaceful there, the air fresh with morning dew and bird song. I sat in a wrought iron chair and watched the sun climb higher, warming my face. In this moment of solitude, I felt a strange clarity beginning to form within me, a recognition that something had to change, that I had to change. The sound of the patio door opening broke my reverie. I turned to see Lily dressed in pajama pants and a Princeton sweatshirt, her hair twisted into a messy bun. "Grandma," she said, seeming surprised to find me there. "You're up early." "Old habits," I smiled. "Good morning, Lily." She hesitated, then sat in the chair opposite mine. "Did you sleep okay? That office sofa is pretty terrible." So she knew about my sleeping arrangements. "Interesting. I've slept on worse," I said lightly. She looked uncomfortable. "I told Mom we should have given you my room. I could have slept on the sofa." The small kindness, not enacted, but at least considered, touched me deeply. "That's very thoughtful, but unnecessary. I'm fine." Lily fidgeted with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. "I'm sorry I didn't know you were coming. Dad never mentioned it." "It's all right," I said, though it wasn't. "And I'm sorry about running off yesterday. Finals week is intense." "I understand. Your studies should be your priority." She looked up at me then, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time since I'd arrived. "Are you okay, Grandma?" You seem different. The question caught me off guard. Was I okay? No, not really. But I didn't want burden this young woman with my hurt feelings. I'm fine, I said again, just a bit tired from travel. Tell me about your valedictorian speech. What will you talk about? She brightened, and for the next 20 minutes she spoke animatedly about her plans for the speech, how she wanted to challenge her classmates to look beyond conventional measures of success, to find purpose in service to others. It was thoughtful, mature, and deeply impressive. That sounds wonderful, Lily, I said when she finished. Your grandfather would have been so proud of you. Her expression softened. I wish I'd known him better. He would have adored you. He always said education was the one thing nobody could take away from you. Lily nodded, then glanced at her watch. I should get ready. I have a final at 10. Of course. Good luck, though. I doubt you need it. She stood, then hesitated. Maybe we could have lunch tomorrow, just you and me? There's this cafe near campus I think you'd like. Joy bloomed in my chest, real, uncomplicated joy. I'd love that. She smiled, a genuine smile this time. Great, I'll text you the details. After she left, I remained on the patio, my coffee long cold but my heart warmer than it had been since arriving. This small connection with Lily felt precious, a tiny green shoot in barren soil. I didn't know then how significant this moment would be, how this tentative bridge between us would become my lifeline in the days ahead. Nor did I realize that someone else in this family had been watching our interaction with keen interest, someone who would soon become an unexpected ally in the storm that was brewing. Because the truth was, Richard hadn't invited me here just to witness Lily's graduation or to ask for money for a new house. There was something else happening in this family, something hidden beneath the surface of their perfect facade. And I was about to be caught in the middle of it, forced to make choices I never imagined I would face. That afternoon, while everyone was out, Richard at work, Vanessa at a client meeting, Lily at school, I decided to explore New Haven a bit. I couldn't bear another minute alone in that house where I felt so unwelcome. I called a taxi and asked to be taken downtown. The driver, a young woman with intricate braids and a ready smile, chatted amiably as she drove, pointing out landmarks and offering suggestions for places to visit. First time in New Haven? She asked. I've visited before, but never really explored, I admitted. You should check out the Yale Art Gallery. It's free and they have an amazing collection. I thanked her for the suggestion and asked to be dropped at the gallery. Art had always been a comfort to me, a window into other worlds and perspectives. The gallery was indeed impressive. I wandered through rooms of European paintings, contemporary sculptures, ancient artifacts. Time slipped away as I lost myself in beauty and history. In one room dedicated to American portraiture, I found myself standing before a painting of an elderly woman, her face lined with experience, her eyes sharp with intelligence. Something about her expression, dignified, unapologetic, resonated deeply with me. She's something, isn't she? I turned to find a young man standing beside me, perhaps in his early 20s, with dark hair and familiar features that I couldn't quite place. Yes, I agreed. There's such strength in her face. He nodded. The placard says she was a school teacher who became a suffragist in her 60s. Started a whole new life when most people would be winding down. I smiled at that. It's never too late to stand up for yourself. That's what I think too. He studied me for a moment. Excuse me, but Are you Mrs. Wallace? Martha Wallace? Surprised, I nodded. Yes, I am. His face broke into a wide smile. I thought so. I'm Noah. Richard's son? From his first marriage? My heart leapt. Noah, my grandson whom I'd barely seen since he was a child. After Richard and his first wife, Caroline, divorced, Noah had stayed with his mother. Richard rarely mentioned him, and I'd lost touch despite my best efforts to stay connected. Noah, I exclaimed, my goodness, you're all grown up. He laughed, 22 now. Just finished my culinary program. Culinary program? You're a chef? Working on it, he said proudly. I have an apprenticeship at Harvest Table downtown. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely delighted. But how did you recognize me? It's been years. His expression turned sheepish.
I have a picture of us.
From when I was about 8? At the beach.
You were teaching me how to build a proper sand castle.
The memory flooded back. A sunny day, salty air, Noah's small hands patting sand into towers. One of the last times I'd seen him before the divorce. I remember that day, I said softly. You were very serious about the moat. He laughed again. Still am, about most things. But what are you doing in New Haven? Are you visiting Dad and Vanessa? I nodded. For Lily's graduation. Right. Valedictorian. Pretty impressive. You knew about that. Lily and I keep in touch, he said. Not with Dad's knowledge, obviously. Vanessa isn't exactly a fan of reminders from his first marriage. Would you have time for coffee? Noah asked suddenly. There's a great place just around the corner. I'd love that, I said, touched by his eagerness to connect. The cafe was cozy and quiet, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. We found a table by the window, ordered coffees, and began the delicate process of bridging the years between us. Noah told me about his life, how he'd discovered his passion for cooking in high school, his decision to attend culinary school instead of a traditional college, which had not gone over well with Richard, his dreams of eventually opening his own restaurant, focusing on sustainable, farm-to-table cuisine. Dad thinks it's a waste of time, he said, stirring his coffee. He wanted me to get a business degree, follow in his footsteps. Your father has always had very specific ideas about success, I said carefully. Noah snorted. That's one way to put it. He hesitated, then asked, How long are you staying? Until the day after Lily's graduation. And they've got you in the house? Not a hotel? I shifted uncomfortably. In the office, on the pull-out sofa. Noah's expression darkened. Typical. Let me guess. Dad also wants something from you? Money, probably? His perceptiveness startled me. Why would you say that? Because that's how it works with him. He only reaches out when he needs something. Noah leaned forward. You know they're looking at a new house, right? Some massive place in Westbrook? I nodded slowly. And let me guess, they're a little short on the down payment? I didn't confirm it, but my silence was answer enough. Noah shook his head. Grandma, can I be blunt? Please, don't give him a cent. Not one penny. He won't pay it back, and once he gets what he wants, you'll be pushed right back to the periphery of his life until the next time he needs something. His words cut deep, not because they were cruel, but because they articulated what I had already begun to stick. Noah, your father is complicated. Because you deserve better, he said simply, and because I remember how kind you were to me when I was a kid, how you always sent birthday cards and Christmas presents even after the divorce. How you tried to stay in touch until Dad and Vanessa made it impossible. Tears pricked at my eyes. I thought you'd forgotten me. Never, Noah said fiercely. I kept every card, every gift. You were the only one who tried. We talked for another hour, exchanging phone numbers and promises to stay in touch regardless of what happened with Richard. As we were preparing to leave, Noah hesitated. There's something else you should know, he said, his voice lower. About Lily. What about her? She's not planning to go to Princeton. I blinked in confusion. But Richard said she got a full scholarship. She did, but she doesn't want to go there. She applied to the Culinary Institute of America too, and got in. That's what she really wants, to be a pastry chef. Does Richard know? Noah shook his head. No, she's terrified to tell him. You know how he is about his plan for everyone. Princeton, law school, corporate career. That's what he expects from Lily. Her becoming a pastry chef? He'd see it as a personal failure. That's why I wanted you to know, Noah continued. Lily might need an ally in the days ahead. She respects you, even though she barely knows you. She remembers how you always sent her books about what she was interested in, not what Dad thought she should be interested in. I hadn't realized Lily had noticed that small gesture. I'd always tried to choose books that matched her actual interests, baking, art, history, rather than the business and law books Richard suggested. Thank you for telling me, I said, reaching across the table to squeeze Noah's hand. And thank you for this unexpected gift of reconnection. His smile was so genuine it made my heart ache. It's not just for Lily, you know. It's for me too. I've missed having a grandmother. We parted with a warm hug and a promise to meet again before I left town. As I watched Noah walk away, his tall figure disappearing around a corner, I felt something shifting inside me, a resolve hardening, a clarity emerging. I took a taxi back to Richard's house, my mind whirling with all I had learned. The empty house was almost a relief. I needed time to think. I visited the Yale Art Gallery, I replied. It was lovely. I love that place, Lily said enthusiastically. Did you see the contemporary wing? There's this amazing installation with light and shadow. Speaking of art, Vanessa interrupted, I need to show you the fixtures I've selected for the Westbrook house, Richard. The designer says they'll complement the original moldings perfectly. And just like that, the conversation veered away from me, from Lily, from anything that wasn't about Vanessa's design vision or Richard's business achievements. I caught Lily's eye again and gave her a small smile of solidarity. She returned it, a quick flicker of connection in this desert of disconnection. After dinner, Richard cornered me in the kitchen as I was helping clear plates. So, Mom, about what we discussed yesterday, he began, his voice casual but his eyes intent. The house. We're seeing it again tomorrow at 2. I was hoping you might come along, see what an amazing investment it would be. I'm having lunch with Lily tomorrow, I said. Richard blinked, clearly surprised. Oh, well, perhaps after lunch? The realtor could meet us at 3 instead. I'll think about it, I said noncommittally. He nodded, though I could see the calculation in his eyes. It really is a once-in-a-lifetime property, Mom, and with your help on the down payment, we could make it work. I looked at my son, this stranger in expensive clothes who had my husband's jawline and my mother's eyes, and felt a profound sadness. When had he become this person, this man who saw his mother only as a financial resource? Richard, I said quietly, why did you invite me here, really? The question seemed to catch him off guard. For Lily's graduation, of course. Are you sure it wasn't primarily to ask for money? His expression hardened slightly. That's unfair, Mom. Of course I wanted you here for Lily. The house is just a family matter I thought you'd want to be involved in. A family matter, I repeated. Yet Noah isn't considered family enough to be included in anything. At the mention of Noah, Richard's face darkened. Noah made his choices. He chose to reject everything I tried to give him. You mean he chose not to become exactly what you wanted him to be? Richard's jaw tightened. I don't think you understand the situation, Mom. I think I understand more than you realize, I replied. I met Noah today by chance. We had coffee. You what? Richard looked genuinely shocked. Why would you? He's my grandson, Richard. Just as much as Lily is my granddaughter. Richard ran a hand through his hair, visibly agitated. Noah has always been difficult, rebellious. He turned his back on every opportunity I offered him. He's pursuing his passion, I countered, just as Lily wants to pursue hers. A flash of confusion crossed Richard's face. What are you talking about? Lily is going to Princeton, pre-law. I realized my mistake too late. I just meant her academic interests, I backpedaled. Richard studied me for a moment, then seemed to accept my explanation. Look, Mom, let's not argue. Come see the house tomorrow. You'll understand why it's so perfect for us. I nodded, not committing one way or the other. Richard seemed satisfied and left the kitchen, leaving me alone with the weight of all I'd learned and the decisions I needed to make. Later that night, as I lay on the uncomfortable sofa bed staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Noah. It was really great seeing you today, Grandma. Whatever happens with Dad, let's stay in touch this time. Tears welled in my eyes as I typed back, absolutely, you're not getting rid of me again. I fell asleep with the phone clutched in my hand, a small comfort in this house where I felt so adrift. Morning, Grandma, she said, pouring herself coffee. We still on for lunch? Absolutely, I confirmed. Your father mentioned a house viewing this afternoon, but I told him about our lunch plans. Lily rolled her eyes. The Westbrook mansion. It's all they talk about lately. You don't seem excited about it. The bitterness in her voice surprised me. Lily, are you happy here? I asked gently. She looked up sharply, then glanced away. It's fine, I'm leaving for college soon anyway. Her eyes widened. You saw Noah? Yesterday, by chance, at the art gallery. A genuine smile lit her face. How is he? I haven't seen him in weeks. He seems well, very passionate about his cooking. Lily nodded enthusiastically. He's amazing. Last time I visited him at work, he made this dessert with lavender and honey that was just... She trailed off, seeming to realize she was revealing too much of her own interests. It sounds wonderful, I said. I've always thought there's something magical about creating food that brings people joy. Lily studied me carefully. Noah told you, didn't he, about the Culinary Institute? She sighed heavily. Dad would never understand. He's got my whole life planned out. Princeton Law School, corporate law, partner by 35. He never once asked what I want. And what do you want, Lily? To create, she said simply. To make beautiful things that make people happy. Is that so terrible? She looked at me with such vulnerability that my heart ached. Would you come with me? When I tell him, after graduation? The trust implicit in this request humbled me. Of course I will. She nodded, relief evident in her posture. Thanks, Grandma. She checked her watch. I should go. First final starts at 9, but I'll text you the cafe address for lunch, okay? I'll be there, I promised. After she left, I sat alone, watching the morning light filter through the trees. The responsibility Lily had placed on me felt significant, but also right. This was what being a grandmother should be, being present, supportive, a safe harbor in emotional storms. I spent the morning reading and preparing for lunch with Lily. At 11:30, I called a taxi to take me to the cafe she had texted me about. A charming place near the Yale campus with outdoor seating and a menu focused on local ingredients. Lily arrived precisely at noon, slightly flushed from hurrying. Sorry if I'm late, the exam ran long. You're right on time, I assured her. How was the test? Good, I think. European history. I've always been fascinated by the Renaissance. Our conversation flowed easily as we ordered, a stark contrast to the stilted exchanges at Richard's dinner table. Lily told me about her friends, her studies, her love of baking that had begun when she was just 8 and had grown into a serious passion. "I have something for you," I said when there was a natural pause. I reached into my purse and pulled out the velvet box. A graduation gift. Lily looked surprised. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," I said, pushing the box toward her. She opened it carefully, and her breath caught as she saw the delicate necklace inside. "Grandma, it's beautiful." "Turn it over," I suggested. She did, reading the engraving. "Your story is just beginning. Love, Grandma." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. It means a lot." "Your story is yours to write, Lily," I said softly. "Not your father's. Remember that." She nodded, blinking back tears, then carefully fastened the necklace around her neck. "I'll wear it for graduation." As we finished our lunch, Lily glanced at her phone. "Dad's texting me. Wants to know if you're coming to see the house." I hesitated. "What do you think I should do?" She shrugged. "If you go, you'll see exactly what they're like when they want something. If you don't go, they'll just be upset and harder to deal with later." She looked at me directly. "But you shouldn't give them money, Grandma. They don't need it. They want it. There's a difference." Such wisdom from someone so young. "When did you get so insightful?" I asked. "When you grow up watching people wear masks, you learn to see what's behind them," she replied with a maturity that both impressed and saddened me. In the end, I decided to go, not because I had any intention of giving Richard money, but because I wanted to see this performance play out. I wanted to witness with clear eyes what my son had become. Lily went back to campus for another study session, and I took a taxi to meet Richard and Vanessa at the Westbrook property, a sprawling colonial revival on 3 acres with a circular driveway and imposing columns flanking the entrance. Richard was waiting on the front steps, his smile too bright. "Mom, you made it. Isn't it magnificent?" It was certainly grand and ostentatious in a way that spoke more of status than comfort or joy. "It's very large," I said, neutrally. "Wait till you see inside," Vanessa gushed, appearing in the doorway. "The original woodwork is simply divine." For the next hour, I was led through room after cavernous room, formal dining, formal living, family room, library, conservatory, 5 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom, a basement wine cellar, and a 3rd-floor ballroom that Vanessa envisioned as her design studio. "The kitchen needs a complete overhaul," she explained as we toured the outdated space. "But I'm thinking marble countertops, custom cabinetry, maybe a double island." I nodded, saying little, watching how they touched things possessively. how they spoke of the house as if they already owned it. Finally, in the sunroom overlooking immaculately landscaped gardens, Richard made his move. "So, what do you think, Mom? Can you see us here? Can you see Lily coming home from Princeton to this?" "It's certainly impressive," I said carefully. "The thing is," Richard continued, "we need to move quickly. There's another couple interested, and the sellers want proof of funds by Monday." "I see. If you could help with the down payment, just a loan really, we could make this happen." I looked at my son, at the eager, expectant expression on his face that reminded me so much of when he was a boy asking for a new bicycle or video game. Always wanting, always expecting, never really grateful. "Richard," I said slowly, "I need to be honest with you. I don't have $50,000 to give you." His expression faltered. "But your savings are modest. I was a teacher, remember? And I've already helped you with so many things. Your college tuition, your first apartment, the down payment on your current house, the loans when your first business failed." "And I appreciate all that," he said quickly. "But this is different. This is an investment in our family's future." "Is it?" I asked. "Or is it an investment in appearances?" Richard's face hardened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that I don't understand why you need a house this size when the one you have is already enormous. It means I don't understand why I'm sleeping on a sofa bed in your office when you have 5 bedrooms. It means I don't understand why you invited me here without telling Lily I was coming, or why you forgot to pick me up at the airport." Vanessa stiffened beside Richard. "That's hardly fair, Martha. We've been very busy with—" "Too busy to remember your own mother was flying across the country at your invitation," I interrupted, surprising myself with my firmness. "Too busy to prepare a proper place for her to sleep? Too busy to include your own son in your family?" Richard's face flushed. Noah chose to follow his passion instead of your plan," I said, "just as Lily wants to do." Richard went very still. "What are you talking about?" I realized I'd said too much again, but there was no going back now. "Lily doesn't want to go to Princeton, Richard. She wants to go to the Culinary Institute, to become a pastry chef." The silence that followed was deafening. Richard stared at me in disbelief, then shook his head. "That's ridiculous. She's going to Princeton. She has a scholarship." "Have you ever asked her what she wants?" I pressed. "Have you ever really listened to her?" "Of course I have," he snapped. "I know what's best for her future." "Like you knew what was best for Noah?" Richard's expression darkened dangerously. "This conversation is over. I think you should go back to the house, Mom. You're obviously tired and confused." "I'm neither tired nor confused," I said calmly. "For the first time in years, I'm seeing things very clearly." The realtor chose that moment to appear, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "Is everything all right?" I heard raised voices. "Everything's fine," Richard said tersely. "We're just finishing up. My mother isn't feeling well." The realtor's professionally pleasant expression flickered briefly. "I see. Well, as I mentioned, we do have other interested parties." "We're still very interested," Vanessa cut in smoothly. "We're just discussing the timing." I excused myself, walked out to the circular driveway, and called a taxi. As I waited, Richard stormed out after me. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. "You've embarrassed us in front of the realtor. You've made ridiculous claims about Lily." "Ask her yourself," I suggested. "Really ask her, and then really listen to the answer." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Is this about the money? Are you punishing me because I asked for help? No, Richard. This isn't about money at all. It's about seeing the truth of what our relationship has become. It's about realizing that I matter to you only when you need something from me. That's not true, he protested, but his eyes shifted away from mine. When was the last time you called me just to talk? To ask how I was doing? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Lily reminding you? He had no answer. I love you, Richard. You're my son, but I don't like who you've become, and I won't enable it anymore. As we drove away, I felt both heartbroken and strangely liberated. I had finally spoken my truth. After years of swallowing it down, the pain was real, but so was the relief. I didn't know then that the confrontation at the Westbrook house was just the beginning, that the real storm would break that evening, with consequences none of us could have predicted. I didn't know that within 24 hours everything would change, that I would be faced with a choice that would redefine what family meant to me and what I meant to myself. Because sometimes standing in your truth is just the first step. Sometimes you also have to walk away, not in anger, not in spite, but in self-respect. In the quiet dignity of knowing your own worth. When I returned to Richard's house, the silence was almost palpable. I went to my small office bedroom and began packing my things methodically. Not everything. I wasn't leaving yet. Lily's graduation was still 2 days away, and I had promised to stand beside her when she talked to her father, but I wanted to be ready. Grandma? Everything okay?
Not exactly, I admitted. I had a confrontation with your father. About the house, about you, and accidentally about Lily's culinary school plans.
Oh no, Noah groaned. How did he take it? Not well, but it needed to be said. Are you still at his house? Do you need somewhere else to stay? You could come to my apartment. It's small. Thank you, Noah. I'm staying for now. I promised Lily I'd be here for her graduation, and for what comes after. She's going to tell him, isn't she? About the Culinary Institute. Yes, after the ceremony. Noah was quiet for a moment. I wish I could be there, for both of you. But Dad made it clear years ago that I'm not welcome at family functions. Maybe, he agreed, though he sounded doubtful. Just call me if you need anything, okay? Anytime. I will, I promised. And Noah, I'm so glad we found each other again. Me too, Grandma. Me too. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the sofa bed, thinking about what lay ahead. The graduation itself, the confrontation about Lily's future, my own decisions about what would happen after. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I was no longer afraid to ask the questions. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Dad came back furious. What happened? I responded simply, we had a disagreement about the house and about what you really want for your future. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, did you tell him about CIA? Not intentionally. It slipped out. I'm sorry. Another pause. Then, it's okay. Maybe it's better this way. Rip the Band-Aid off. Are you all right? I asked. I'm at Madison's, staying here tonight. Can't deal with the tension. I understand. I'm here if you need me. Thanks, Grandma, for everything. I put the phone down and stared out the window at the fading light. The quiet house felt like the eye of a hurricane, a momentary calm before the inevitable destruction. That night, I ate a simple sandwich alone in the kitchen. Richard and Vanessa had gone out, leaving no note, no indication of when they'd return. Their absence spoke volumes. I was reading in my room when they came home around 10, their voices carrying up the stairs in tense undertones. I couldn't make out the words, but the anger was evident. A door slammed. Silence fell. The next day, the day before graduation, the house remained a war zone of unspoken tensions. Richard left early for work without speaking to me. Vanessa stayed in her home office with the door closed. I spent most of the day at the Yale Art Gallery again, finding solace in beauty and history. That evening, Lily returned home for the family dinner that had been planned weeks earlier. She arrived wearing the necklace I had given her, a small act of defiance or solidarity or both. After dessert, as Lily and I were clearing plates, she whispered, "I can't do this anymore. I'm telling him tonight." "Are you sure?" I asked. "We agreed to wait until after graduation." She shook her head. "I can't stand up there tomorrow and give a speech about authenticity and purpose while living a lie. I need to do this now." I squeezed her hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." She nodded, took a deep breath, and walked back to the dining room where Richard was checking emails on his phone and Vanessa was pouring another glass of wine. "Dad," Lily said, her voice stronger than I expected. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." Richard looked up, his expression wary. "What is it, sweetheart?" Lily glanced at me for reassurance, then straightened her shoulders. "I'm not going to Princeton in the fall." Richard set his phone down slowly. "What are you talking about?" "I've been accepted to the Culinary Institute of America. That's where I'm going. I want to be a pastry chef." The silence that followed was absolute. Vanessa's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Richard stared at Lily as if she had suddenly started speaking a foreign language. "That's ridiculous," he finally said. "You have a full scholarship to Princeton. We've been planning this for years." "You've been planning it," Lily corrected. "I never wanted it." "You're 18, Richard said dismissively. "You don't know what you want." "I know exactly what I want," Lily insisted. "I've known since I was 12. I just never had the courage to tell you, because I knew you'd react exactly like this." Richard's face darkened. "This is about Noah, isn't it? He's filled your head with this nonsense about cooking school." "This has nothing to do with Noah," Lily said. "This is about me, about what makes me happy." "Happy?" Richard's voice rose. "You know what will make you happy? Financial security, a respected career. Not flipping pancakes for minimum wage." "Richard," I intervened, "you're not listening to her." He turned on me, eyes flashing. "And you've been encouraging this, haven't you? Behind my back, undermining everything I've worked for." "I've been listening to her," I said calmly. "Something you might try." "This is none of your business, Mom. This is between me and my daughter." "I asked Grandma to be here," Lily said, "because she actually cares about what I want." Vanessa finally spoke, her words slightly slurred. "Don't be dramatic, Lily. Your father Fanon wants what's best for you." "No," Lily shot back. "He wants what he thinks is best for him, for his image. The successful daughter at an Ivy League school, just like he wanted the successful son in business school. And look how that turned out." Richard slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. "You will not throw Noah in my face. He made his choice, and he'll regret it for the rest of his life." "Noah is happy," Lily said, "which is more than I can say for anyone in this house." Richard stood abruptly. This discussion is over. You're going to Princeton. End of story. No, Dad, I'm not. The certainty in Lily's voice seemed to shake Richard. For a moment, he looked almost afraid. Then his expression hardened again. If you choose this cooking hobby over Princeton, don't expect any financial support from me. Not a penny. Richard, I gasped, you can't mean that. I absolutely mean it, he said coldly. Actions have consequences. Lily, Vanessa interjected, attempting to play peacemaker. Let's all calm down. We can discuss this more rationally tomorrow, after graduation. But Lily was already backing away from the table. There's nothing more to discuss. I've made my decision. She turned and ran upstairs. A door slammed. Richard remained standing, his face a mask of anger and disbelief. Vanessa drained her wine glass. I stood as well. You should be ashamed of yourself, I told Richard quietly. Threatening your own daughter because she dares to have dreams different from yours. Stay out of this, Mom, he warned. I can't, I said, because I made the same mistake with you. I let you become this person who values status and money above genuine happiness, who discards people when they don't fit your plan. I enabled it, and I deeply regret that. I didn't turn out so badly, he snapped. Look at what I've accomplished. Yes, look, I agreed. A beautiful house no one feels at home in. A family fractured by your rigid expectations. A son you've alienated. A daughter you're willing to cut off financially for the crime of following her passion. Is that success, Richard? He had no answer. I left the dining room and went upstairs, knocking gently on Lily's door. It's Grandma, I called softly. The door opened. Lily's face was tear-streaked, but composed. I'm okay, she said, though clearly she wasn't. I knew he'd react like that. I'm so sorry, Lily. She shook her head. Don't be. For the first time in my life, I told him the truth, even if he didn't like it. I hugged her tightly. I'm proud of you, so proud. What am I going to do now? She asked, her voice small. Without Dad's support, I don't know if I can afford culinary school. Let me worry about that, I said. We'll figure it out together. She pulled back, steadying my face. Why are you doing this for me? You barely know me. Because you're my granddaughter, I said simply. Because you deserve to be supported in becoming who you truly are. And because it's never too late to change the pattern. She hugged me again, fiercely. Thank you, she whispered. That night, as I lay on the uncomfortable sofa bed for what I knew would be the last time, made a decision. Actually, a series of decisions that would reshape everything. I would attend Lily's graduation tomorrow, with my head held high. I would cheer for her as she gave her valedictorian speech, and then I would leave this house and the old patterns behind forever. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to stop participating in a dynamic that diminishes everyone involved. Sometimes the bravest choice is to walk away, not in anger but in the quiet certainty that you deserve better, that everyone deserves better. And as I drifted off to sleep, I felt a strange peace settling over me. The confrontation had been painful, yes, but also necessary. The truth had finally been spoken, and there was a certain liberation in that, even amid the heartache. Tomorrow would bring Lily's graduation, her moment to shine, and after that, a new chapter would begin, for her, for Noah, and most surprisingly, for me. A chapter where we would write our own stories, not according to someone else's expectations, but guided by our own authentic voices and values. The gymnasium was crowded and overheated, filled with proud families clutching programs and flowers. I sat between Richard and Vanessa in the second row, reserved for families of honor students. The tension was palpable. We had barely spoken all morning. Lily looked beautiful in her cap and gown, the tassels swinging as she took her place with the other graduates. The ceremony proceeded with the usual speeches from the principal and school board president, platitudes about bright futures and endless possibilities. And then it was Lily's turn. She approached the podium with grace and confidence that belied the turmoil of the previous night. Her voice, clear and strong, filled the gymnasium. "Fellow graduates, honored guests, family and friends," she began, "we stand at a crossroads today. Behind us lies the familiar path of our childhood. Before us stretch countless possible futures, each with its own challenges and rewards." She paused, scanning the audience until her eyes found mine. I nodded encouragingly. "Many of us have been told what that future should look like," she continued. "What success means, what paths are acceptable. But today, I want to challenge us all to define success on our own terms, to find the courage to follow not the easiest path or the most prestigious path, but the path that ignites our passion and brings us true fulfillment." I glanced at Richard. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. "My grandfather once told my grandmother that education is the one thing nobody can take away from you," Lily said, surprising me with this reference. "I never met him, but his wisdom has stayed with me. Education isn't just about degrees or institutions. It's about learning to think critically, to discover our own truths, to find our authentic voice in a world that often tries to silence it." Her words resonated deeply with me, and I found myself blinking back tears. As we leave high school behind, let's promise ourselves that we will not shrink from difficult truths, that we will not abandon our dreams for the sake of others' expectations, that we will have the courage to write our own stories, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. She looked directly at her father then, a silent challenge in her gaze. Because a life lived authentically, true to your own values and passions, is the only life worth living. Thank you. The gymnasium erupted in applause. I stood, clapping until my hands hurt, tears streaming down my face. Beside me, Richard remained seated, his expression stormy. Vanessa rose half-heartedly, applauding with minimal effort. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it was over, we gathered outside in the bright May sunshine. Lily was surrounded by friends, accepting congratulations and posing for photos. When she spotted us, she excused herself and came over, her expression guarded. "Thanks, Grandma," she whispered. When she turned to her parents, the warmth left her voice. "Mom, Dad." Richard nodded stiffly. "Congratulations." The awkward silence that followed was broken by a familiar voice calling Lily's name. We all turned to see Noah approaching, dressed in a crisp button-down shirt and tie, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers. Richard's face darkened. "What are you doing here?" "Supporting my sister," Noah replied calmly. "Congratulations, Lily." Amazing speech. Lily broke into a genuine smile for the first time that day. "Noah, you came." She rushed to hug him, taking the flowers with delight. "Wouldn't have missed it," he said. Then nodding to me, "Grandma." "Noah, I smiled warmly. I'm so glad you're here. Richard looked between us, realization dawning. You planned this, he accused me. You invited him. No, Noah corrected. Lily invited me, but I would have come anyway. Vanessa tugged at Richard's arm. There are the Hendersons. We should say hello. Richard hesitated, clearly torn between social obligation and his anger at Noah's presence. Finally, with a curt nod to us all, he allowed Vanessa to lead him away. Well, Noah said dryly, that went better than expected. No actual explosion. Lily laughed, though her eyes were sad. Give it time. I looked at my two grandchildren standing together, these remarkable young people with their own dreams and their own integrity, and felt a surge of pride so intense it nearly took my breath away. I have something to tell you both, I said. I've made some decisions. They looked at me expectantly. I'm not going back to Richard's house. I've booked a hotel room for tonight, and my flight home is tomorrow afternoon. Lily's face fell. You're leaving already? Not exactly, I smiled. I'm going home to sell my house. What? They both exclaimed simultaneously. I'm selling my house, I repeated, and I'm moving to New Haven. I want to, I interrupted. I've spent too many years alone, too many years allowing distance to grow between us. I want to be present in your lives, both of your lives, if you'll let me. Of course we want that, Lily said, her eyes filling with tears. But what about Dad? Noah looked stunned. Grandma, are you sure? Moving across the country is a huge change. I've never been more certain of anything, I assured him. I'm 72, not 92. I still have time to build the relationships I should have been nurturing all along. But what about your friends? Your book club? Lily asked. I smiled. I'll miss them, of course. But we have phones and the internet, and I can start a new book club here. What I can't replace is this time with you both. Dad will be furious, Lily warned. Probably, I agreed. But that's his choice. My choice is to stop waiting for approval that never comes, to stop being convenient only when needed. And I can help you look for somewhere permanent, Lily added eagerly. There are some really nice senior communities near campus. Whoa, I laughed. Let's not rush me into the retirement home just yet. I was thinking more of a small apartment or condo. They both laughed, and for a moment, standing there in the sunshine surrounded by families celebrating, we were our own little family, imperfect, unexpected, but real. I should get my things from your father's house, I said to Lily. She nodded. I'll come with you. For moral support. Me too, Noah offered, if that's okay. More than okay, I assured him. We walked to Noah's car, a well-maintained but older model sedan. As we drove to Richard's house, I felt strangely calm. Despite knowing the confrontation that likely awaited us, the decision had been made. The die was cast. There was a certain freedom in that finality. Richard and Vanessa's cars were both in the driveway when we arrived. Noah parked on the street, and we all sat for a moment, steeling ourselves. Ready? Noah asked. Ready, I confirmed. The three of us walked up to the front door together. Lily used her key, and we entered to find Richard and Vanessa in the living room, still in their graduation attire, drinks in hand. Richard's expression hardened when he saw Noah. What is this? I've come to get my things, I said calmly. Noah and Lily are helping me. You're leaving? Vanessa asked, not sounding particularly disappointed. Yes, I've booked a hotel for tonight and my flight home is tomorrow. Richard set his drink down. This is ridiculous, Mom. You're overreacting to a family disagreement. No, Richard, I'm finally reacting appropriately to years of being taken for granted, of being valued only when convenient or needed. That's not fair, he protested. It's entirely fair, I countered. When was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time you asked about my life, my happiness? He had no answer. I'm moving to New Haven, I continued. I've decided to sell my house and relocate. This got his attention. What? Why would you do that? To be near my grandchildren. Both of them. I emphasized the last part pointedly. Richard's gaze shifted to Lily. Is this about the culinary school nonsense? Because that discussion isn't over. And I'm going to help her, I added, financially. Richard's face reddened. With what money? You just said you don't have $50,000 for the house down payment. I don't, but I have enough to help Lily pursue her dreams, and that's a much better investment. This is absurd, Richard sputtered. You can't just upend your entire life based on some emotional reaction. Actually, I can, I said. That's the beauty of being an adult. I get to decide what matters to me. And right now, that's supporting my grandchildren in becoming who they truly are, not who someone else thinks they should be. Vanessa, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. And what about us? What about our needs? I looked at her directly. You're both successful adults with good incomes. You don't need my money for a bigger house. You want it. There's a difference. Richard's expression hardened. I see. So you're choosing them over us. I'm choosing to support those who actually want me in their lives for who I am, not what I can provide. I turned to Lily. Would you mind helping me pack? She nodded, and we went upstairs to the small office, leaving Noah downstairs with Richard and Vanessa. I pecked quickly, efficiently, hearing the muffled sounds of heated conversation below. Are you okay? Lily asked as she folded my cardigan. Better than okay, I assured her. For the first time in years, I feel. We finished packing and returned downstairs to find Noah standing alone in the foyer. Richard and Vanessa had retreated elsewhere in the house. Everything all right? I asked Noah. He shrugged. Dad said some things, I said some things back. The usual. I'm sorry, I said, touching his arm. Don't be. It's not new. He picked up my suitcase, ready to go. I looked around the grand foyer of this house that had never felt like a home to me, more than ready. As we walked out, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Richard appeared, his expression a complex mixture of anger, confusion, and something that might have been fear. Mom, he called, don't do this. And with that, I walked out the door, flanked by my grandchildren, into the bright afternoon sunshine and toward a future I never expected, but now embraced wholeheartedly. That evening, Noah, Lily, and I had dinner at the restaurant where Noah worked. He introduced me, his colleagues, showed me around the kitchen with obvious pride, and arranged for the pastry chef to prepare a special dessert for our table. This could be you in a few years, I told Lily as we marveled at the intricate chocolate creation before us. I hope so, she said, her eyes shining with possibility. It will be, Noah assured her. You've got the talent, and now you've got the support. As we ate, we talked about practical matters, my house sale, finding an apartment in New Haven, Lily's enrollment at the Culinary Institute, Noah's progress toward his own restaurant, but we also shared stories, discovered common interests, laughed at shared quirks that had somehow passed through generations. And your stubbornness, Noah grinned.
I prefer to call it determination, I corrected with a smile.
Is that what we're calling it now? Lily teased. It was easy, this connection between us. Natural in a way my interactions with Richard hadn't been in years. There was no performance here, no hidden agenda, just three people genuinely enjoying each other's company. After dinner, Noah drove us to my hotel. Before I got out of the car, I turned to two of them. "Thank you," I said simply, "for welcoming me into your lives."
"Thank you for choosing us," Lily replied, her voice thick with emotion. "It's not a hard choice when you see it clearly," I told her. "Sometimes it just takes a while to get there." Later, alone in my hotel room, I sat by the window, looking out at the New Haven skyline. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, not just the physical journey across the country, but the emotional one, from invisible to seen, from convenient to valued, from a ghost in my own family to a person with agency and purpose. I picked up my phone and called Eleanor back home. "Martha?" she answered on the second ring. "How's Connecticut?" "Transformative," I replied. "Uh-oh," she said. "That sounds significant." I laughed. "It is. I'm selling the house and moving to New Haven." There was a moment of shocked silence. Then, "Tell me everything." And so, I did, about the airport pickup that never happened, the sofa bed in the office, the Warwick house, reconnecting with Noah, supporting Lily, the final confrontation with Richard. When I finished, Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what, Martha? I'm proud of you. It takes courage to walk away from the familiar, even when the familiar isn't serving you well." "I'm not sure if it's courage or just exhaustion," I admitted. "I got tired of waiting to matter." "That is courage," she insisted. "Recognizing your own worth when others don't. Standing in that truth." The next morning, Noah picked me up for breakfast before my afternoon flight. Lily joined us, having spent the night at Madison's again, unwilling to face the tension at home. "I've been thinking," I told them over coffee, "about what happens next." They looked at me expectantly. "You can stay with me as long as you need," Noah offered again. "That's very generous," I said, "but I think we'll all be happier if I have my own space. I may be embracing change, but I'm still set in some of my ways." They laughed at that. "What about Dad?" Lily asked, her expression sobering. "Do you think he'll come around?" "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I hope so, eventually. But that's his journey to make, not mine to force." "And in the meantime," Noah pressed, "in the meantime, we build something new, something authentic." I reached across the table and took both their hands. Family isn't just blood or obligation, it's choice. It's showing up. It's seeing each other for who we truly are, and loving each other anyway. As I boarded my flight that afternoon, I felt none of the sadness or rejection that had clouded my arrival. Instead, I felt purpose, direction, a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I was no longer invisible, no longer waiting to be seen, or valued or included. I had claimed my own place on my own terms, and in doing so, I had found not just self-respect, but also genuine connection with Noah and Lily, a connection based on mutual respect and shared values rather than obligation or convenience. The plane lifted off, carrying me back to the house that had been my home for 40 years. But this time, I wasn't returning to loneliness and isolation. I was returning to prepare for a new chapter, one I was writing myself, with characters who genuinely wanted to be part of my story. Because sometimes the family you need isn't the one you expected. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from those who don't see your worth in order to embrace those who do. And sometimes, at 72, you discover that your story isn't ending at all. It's just beginning.